Cheers folks, and welcome to my channel. It is Alliance War number 11 in season number 5, and that means that after this war it's just one more war and then the season is over. And for this war we have been meeting number 1. I think it's a Chinese ally, and what you see here on paper, last season bronze 3. Looks very strange, but I can assure they are currently ranked number 24 in war rating, and they are number 12 in the master bracket. So apparently they went through quite some transformation to make it from bronze 3 into master. But sometimes, you get new players in, or others retire, or you just have a whole new strategy of rebuilding the alliance, strongly recruiting from other alliances. Whatever they did, they apparently did some things right, because right now they are on the track of ending that season in Master. And I'm back to my beautiful path number 7, and also with the champs ahead on that path, it was clear that I would go back to my standard team, which is Void, Blade, and Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider, again, only basically for the synergy with Blade. I haven't really fought with Ghost Rider. I haven't ever fought with Ghost Rider. You don't fight with a 4-star champion in Alliance War, but he's always useful to give some extra danger sense to Blade if you're fighting against villains. Also today, no difference in the first section, so I'm going path 7 all the way. Sometimes you can swap around a bit depending on which champs you have and which champs are on the other nodes. And the first one on path 7, node 4, is immune to poison. It's limber, so the parry stun or the stun is reduced every time, which means that you can basically stun them, let's say, maybe 3 times, and after that they're basically stun immune. And then a small champ boost, boosting attack and boosting health. And because it's the last 2 wars, now clearly again is not the time to save boosts. We want to end the season in top 3. So again, this fight or these fights are all boosted as usual. And I decided to take the first fight with Void. It's a dupe 6-star Mystic, and exactly as I suspected, I thought it's either Lady Thor or Loki. Now the thing with Loki is that he of course always gets his charging up to 1 bar of power if he's a duplicate, and therefore I chose Void because with the Petrify debuffs you can basically prevent that from happening after a while. So as soon as he got 2 Petrify debuffs, he doesn't gain that much energy anymore. Already now with 1 Petrify debuff you can see that his power gain is rather reduced. And then I already here started to fight him like a stun immune, so let him hit my block, fire off his heavy, and then counter him, and then he's already down. So don't take a chance on that limber. If they are also placed, if the defenders are placed with maximum limber mastery, then it could also be that you can only parry stun them like once or twice, and after that basically you run the risk of getting parried when attacking them. So that was the first fight. Second fight on node number 7 is starting with 1 bar of power. It's got cornered, so whenever you have a damage over time debuff on that champion, they gain 100% more power and 150% attack and health. Now the good thing is actually about this season on bleed immune global node that Blade doesn't cause any of these cornered nodes to take effect, because the cornered nodes were always a bit tricky with Blade, because when your opponents were bleeding they would really gain a lot of power. Now they're bleed immune, so basically cornered is useless when you're or useless if you want to place a defender against Blade. You can't place a defender against Blade because basically they don't bleed. And that Yellow Jacket also had very little health, so he was down very quickly. I had to evade 1 special 1, but that was rather easy. For me, always when I fight Yellow Jacket, the easiest to evade his special ones is when you are far away from him, so basically in the other corner. But yeah, everybody has their way of, you know, evading that attack. And going already to the third fight, and while for once actually all three nodes were covered with champions, another Limber node, reducing stun buffs by 0.1 seconds, and a recovery buff, meaning that healing and regeneration abilities recover 50% more health. And then the champion boosts are 175% more health and attack. And because it's a healing recovery node, usually you find a Dr. Voodoo on there. And that's also what it was in the end. And again, this was also why I went in with Void, to be able to actually at a certain stage, or if I can inflict a Petrify debuff very early in the fight, then I could very early also reduce his healing or even reverse his healing for the time of the beginning when he gets his healing regeneration debuff. Other than that, also here, parry stun him in the beginning, then getting him to a special 1. I personally prefer special 1 because I think it's easy to evade, and then letting him fire off his special 1, and after he fired off his special 1 you directly counter attack, and again place and spam the typical Void debuffs, and there he's down. So 3 very nice warm-up fights in the evening to start off the war number 11, and as usual, and you know, I'm in Europe, so first fights in the first section always in the evening, and then continuing on my path in the morning, and I'm always then moving up to this node number 31. From there with 5 energy I can take all the way to the mini boss. Node number 31, a 6-star unduped Groot, King Groot. And the node 31, for all those who have not yet seen any video of mine, is a buffed node, meaning that whenever you spam a buff, your opponent purifies it and gains 5% of their max health. Also, buff duration is increased by 40%, which means basically the fury buffs of King Groot, because as he's non-duplicate, he doesn't get any regeneration buff, but then healing and generation abilities are also increased by 150%. So he doesn't heal himself, he basically can only get healing when I get a buff, and that means with Void, when I use the Dexterity Mastery and evade one of his attacks, and then he would purify the Dexterity Precision buff on me and heal back 5% of his maximum health. So what I have to do is, again, try to find or try to reverse this healing ability into a degeneration, and that means that I have to spam debuffs on him, petrify debuffs more specifically. And the thing with King Groot is that he always has these fury buffs, and whenever he gets a debuff, he basically loses one of those fury buffs and then purifies the debuff. So what I always do in the beginning, I parry stun him twice, because he always has 2 fury debuffs, 2 fury buffs in the beginning. So I take out those 2 fury buffs with 2 parry stuns, and from that moment on, in the second phase now, that he's in right now, basically my debuffs stick. And he already has 1 petrify debuff, and that means already that regeneration, which I triggered now by evading with my Dexterity Mastery, is slowly but steadily reversed into degeneration. And now he has 2 petrify debuffs, and now really he is losing health instead of gaining health whenever the buffed node ability is taking effect. And I just keep doing what I'm just keep spamming my special ones. I keep spamming my debuffs. I wait for him to fire off his special 1. It's easy to evade, and then I counter attack. And I wait for him especially to be in this phase where he is right now, where he has no fury buffs, because then I can spam my special ones and inflict debuffs, and now he's got Fear of the Void plus 2 Petrify debuffs, and that's when he's really going down easily, when he's getting a regeneration. You see here how much he loses with just one of those buffed regenerations. He's almost already down. I let him fire off his last special one, and then it's over. I really like King Groot, I have to say, on that note. One of my absolute favorites. Even goes faster actually when he's a duplicate, because then he actually has regeneration phases in between. And once you petrify him, he's just losing health so quickly. And then moving on to the next, node number 38. Node number 38 is Armor Up node and Explosive Personality node. So every 2 seconds this opponent gets an Armor Up unless you hit him, and you may not hit the block of the opponent more than 5 times, otherwise you lose 25% of your health. Usually you would find a MCOC here if it's a science champion, because MCOC has the ability to parry auto block, and then you are basically hitting his block. And when you do that more than 5 times, again, you're losing 25% of your health. So it's quite an efficient way for MCOC to get rid of your health. But in this case, it was an Ant-Man, which, quite honestly, I don't understand why to place an Ant-Man on this node. Maybe they would try to fool us to say, okay, maybe maybe MNG will think that this is a MCOC. I don't know. Because what you have to know is that glancing, Ant-Man's glancing, is not an auto block, so it doesn't count as Ant-Man blocking. So it doesn't do anything on this particular Explosive Personality node. And then what you just do, or what I just do when I fight Ant-Man, I let him again get to his special 1, fire off his special 1. On this node you can parry stun, no problem, and you know, just take him down. And it was even a rank 3, so even easier to go. So that was actually quite an easy one. And then moving on to node number 42, and that's a skill and a rank 3 again skill. There was actually quite a few rank 3 champs. So you see that they are coming from bracket bronze, or the bronze bracket. They still need to level up quite a few champions to have a defense that is, let's say, purely existing of rank 4 and rank 5s. Node number 42, Arc Overload every 20 seconds, so another healing regeneration, and the recovery is boosted by 100%. On top, it has 66% armor and a health and a champion boost, which combined make plus 350% health and plus 200% attack. And typically, a skill champ on this node, to be a good counter against Void, is a champion that shrugs off debuffs, and that's mostly 2. The one is being Agent Venom, and the other one is being Kingpin. And in this case, it turned out to be Kingpin, which is even better because that means that Blade has Danger Sense. So against a skill champ on that healing node, I actually don't use, that's the only one I don't use Void on, because of this danger of them shrugging off debuffs. And then you can't really do anything against their healing, and also you run the risk because you have class disadvantage. But Blade does the job. Even though Kingpin gets this Arc Overload every 20 seconds, it doesn't matter because you do so much damage with a boosted Blade and Danger Sense, especially against the Kingpin. Only thing to watch out is not to parry stun him, so I always fight him like a stun immune, wait until he fires off his heavy or his special 1, evade and counter attack, and when I have my special 2 ready, I fire it off, and that is usually enough to take off a lot of health of Kingpin. And again, another one down. But again, also it was a rank 3 Kingpin, so 2 rank 3 champs in a row, not so difficult. And then on the mini boss node, it was a 6-star duped Cable. And dupe means that he actually can get power gain phases when he fills a bar of power. So he can get power gain and he can get a healing buff. On top, strike back, so whenever I fire off my special, any of my specials, he gains 1 bar of power. and healing is boosted by 200%. Again, a very, very typical Void fight, because he can reverse both his ability to have power gain and his ability to have regeneration. Watch out just in the beginning of the fight, as I said a couple of times in previous videos, when he can get strike back and you have not yet a petrify debuff on him. Whenever you fire off a special 1, then he gets a full bar of power. So there you have to watch out a bit, but already now he has 1 petrify debuff, so by me firing off my special he only gets half a bar of power, and now he even got 2 petrify debuffs, and that means from now on in this fight he doesn't gain any more power from strike back. He also doesn't gain any more power from his power gain ability. Here the power flood, you see he doesn't gain any more power, and if he got a healing buff, then he would not heal anymore. And now he even got 2 power floods, but he doesn't get any power because he has 2 petrify debuffs, and now he has Fear of the Void. And then if you inflict 1 more petrify debuff, then basically the fight is over very quickly. And again, what I always do, you can perfectly parry stun this opponent, and then what I always do is I avoid his, or I evade his special 1, which I think is easy to evade, directly counter attack, and always spam my special 1s, and at a certain stage he's just down. Even though he got a healing buff in the end, but the healing buff actually turned into, again, degeneration. So I think it's the 3rd cable during this season that I fought on this node, and by the 3rd time now it was probably my best fight, and again no death, and also I can give a heads up, we also won this war. So 11 streak, still 4 alliances fighting for top 3, so still a very tight race, but we're still hoping to be and to manage in the end remaining top 3. And yeah, if you liked the video, give it a like. If you are new to the channel and would like to see more war videos like this in the future, hit the subscribe button, and I hope to see you very soon on my channel. Cheers, folks.